Hello friends, today I want to help you understand, are short-term rentals allowed in Huntington Beach, California? Have you ever traveled to the beaches in California and thought, man, this would be a great place to own a short-term rental? And have you wondered, are short-term rentals even allowed in Huntington Beach, California? Well, by the end of this video, you'll know exactly where and how you can operate a short-term rental in Huntington Beach, California, along with what legal requirements you need to have in place to avoid fines and penalties. Have you ever wondered if renting out your Huntington Beach property on platforms like Airbnb or VRBO is even a possibility? Are you curious about what zones even allow for short-term rentals in that city? Stay tuned as I clear up those details by first explaining the state of short-term rentals in California. Secondly, I'll talk about the general rules of owning and operating your short-term rentals to get your short-term rentals legal and set up in Huntington Beach, California. And finally, I'll give you my assessment if it's even worth it to own and operate a short-term rental in Huntington Beach, California, or if there are better alternatives out there. If you're ready, let's go. So if you've been thinking about owning and operating or transforming your property into a short-term rental in California, it seems like there's never been a better time to do that. Here's a little bit of data and statistics from a company called Statista. They project a 3.62 annual growth rate in the United States alone by 2026, leading to a potential market volume of just over $20 million. So not only is the short-term rental industry in California and beyond making the potential of owning a property a reality for a larger percentage of young adults who can now pretty much only afford a property if they're able to rent out a piece of it and having those payments coming in as part of a rental to offset their mortgage payment, but it's also encouraging the development or various unique short-term rental businesses run by people that are seeing impressive returns on these investments. So the bottom line, there's still room for people to enter the short-term rental market in both the United States and in California. But as this market share grows, so does the local regulation, and that will govern how and where these businesses will grow and operate. And that's something that I understand. I mean, it is a juggling match. I mean, you have these government agencies that are trying to protect the nature of the city and its residents from being overcrowded with short-term rentals, while at the same time providing opportunity for people that own homes or that own vacation rentals, short-term rentals, to be able to make enough income to make it worthwhile. It is a delicate balancing act. So here's how a short-term rental is defined in California. A short-term rental in the state refers to any residential property or portion of that residential property that is rented to any individual or group of individuals for 30 days or less. And Huntington Beach defines it the exact same way. So now that we have an idea of short-term rentals in California, both in the United States, and the growth potentials, let's dive in specifically to Huntington Beach, California. So Huntington Beach does allow short-term rentals to operate with a permit, as do most cities in the United States. But there are two specific zones where short-term rentals are allowed in Huntington Beach. Zone 1 consists of all the areas in the city excluding Sunset Beach. And Zone 2 consists of certain areas of Sunset Beach. In Zones 1 and 2, short-term rentals are allowed as owner-operated short-term rentals. In Zone 2, short-term rentals are allowed for existing owner unoccupied residential dwelling units who obtain a permit within 6 months of the effective date of the resolution establishing the permit fee. After 6 months, no new permits for owner unoccupied residential dwelling units will be allowed. So here's what you need to own and operate a short-term rental in Huntington Beach, California. As part of the process, a short-term rental owner has to submit local contact personal information, a certificate of occupancy, a signed statement saying that you're going to agree with the local applicable laws, and the following fees: an application fee of $624, business license fee of $75, and a business license application fee of $45. Now, as I mentioned earlier, part of the challenges is dealing with a delicate balance of residents and short-term rental owners. And if it's not regulated, it can become oversaturated. I've seen this in a few areas where I own short-term rentals. One place specifically, Broken Bow, Oklahoma, it was a little bit of the Wild West for a long period of time where everybody was building and buying short-term rentals. And that city is made up of so many short-term rentals. And there came a point where the county, the city had to step in to start to curb all of this building going on and converting properties to short-term rentals to make sure that it didn't get oversaturated. And I understand that piece because as a short-term rental owner there, the more short-term rentals you have, the harder it is to make the money that you're hoping to make when you bought the property, expecting to make a certain amount of revenue. And obviously there's residents that live there, that's their home, and they don't want to see their city that they grew up in, that they live in, that they call as their home, turn into something as just a vacation rental hub. And I've seen this in another area where I own a vacation rental property up in Island Park, Idaho, close to Yellowstone National Park. I've seen a lot of chatter on Facebook where they become frustrated with the county or the city and what they've done with short-term rentals. But at the same time, I see where the investors are coming from because they bought these properties with the mindset that they were going to make a certain amount of money based on the projection and the revenue actuals when they bought the property. And Huntington Beach is one of those cities where they are still figuring this out. Matter of fact, an article came out explaining some of this challenge about 3 months ago. And it talks specifically about the status and state of short-term rentals in Huntington Beach, California. And here were a few of the takeaways. Short-term rentals were officially prohibited in Surf City before 2021, when the city adopted a highly restrictive short-term rental ordinance allowing for only hosted short-term rentals. But the good news for the city of Huntington Beach, California, reported in this news article, was that 200 of the short-term rentals in the city generated nearly $1 million of transient occupancy tax for the city. And in 2020, the amount of unregulated short-term rentals in the city was 867, and last year that had dropped to 135. So the city is doing some really good things to prevent unregulated short-term rentals within the city. And here was a quote that was given in this news article by one of the city councilmen. This is what they said. "The policy we brought forward back in 2021 was a very conservative, incremental approach. I think a lot of the strategy here is trying to balance property rights with the rental market. One of the things I don't want to do is take rental units or for sale units farther away from where something can be considered affordable or attainable off the market and turning it into a short-term rental." And currently, unhosted short-term rentals are currently only allowed in Sunset Beach, although there has been some discussion about furthering that and developing more areas. So Huntington Beach, California is a challenging market to own a short-term rental. If you currently own a property and you're willing to short-term rent it out as a co-host while you live there, there are many areas there that I talked about that allow for that. But if you can get through the red tape and scrutiny, it could potentially be a great place to own a short-term rental. But ironically, and as I was researching this, one county official who's tried to go through the process himself said that he would rate Huntington Beach's overall process of getting a short-term rental approved as a D-. That's just barely above failing. So if their own city councilman that's trying to go through the process gives it a D-, that probably says that it's going to be really challenging for us or somebody who doesn't understand the rules and regulations as well as he does. So my analysis is I believe there's probably better places to look when you're looking to buy a short-term rental. And taking the data and information off of AirDNA, it would probably agree with me. The average home price for sale in Huntington Beach, California is $1.3 million. The average annual income brought in from short-term rentals in Huntington Beach, California is $72,000. Those numbers just don't work. The general rule of thumb is you want annual rents to at least pull in at least 10% of the purchase price. And with those numbers, you're looking at about 6%, which is definitely not a number that you can make work if you're looking to make income from this property. Now, there might be some appreciation involved in Huntington Beach that might be greater in some other areas, but I do not believe it's enough to offset those numbers. And AirDNA came back with a marketability score of 64. That's the AI score it gives based off 1 to 100. And they probably gave it that high of a score because it is in California and it's an area that doesn't allow a ton of short-term rentals. So if you can get one in there, you are probably unique and potentially set up for a situation that could be beneficial down the road. But currently, the numbers just do not seem to work. So that's my feedback and the research I've done when owning short-term rentals in Huntington Beach, California. But if you're there or close to that area, or you know somebody who does own a short-term rental there, please comment. Let's engage in conversation. I'd love to hear your feedback. And as always, just for stopping by, I've actually got a short-term rental calculator where you put in the price of the home, the income, the expenses, and it will spit out to you whether it's a good deal or not, and it's 100% free. Just click on the link below, aaronsfreetraining.com. And once again, thanks for stopping by. Have an amazing day.